In every legend, there are stories untold, truths hidden behind masks, and battles fought not on the field, but within the heart. This is one such story, the tale of a girl forced to live as a boy, and of the warrior she became. Inspired by the legend of the female general, what ye are about to hear is a creative retelling. All images are AI generated, and this story is narrated for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. Welcome to Mini Habit Episode 1, The Girl Behind the Mask. From the very beginning, He Yan's life was not her own. She was born a daughter, but her father did not see her as a child. He saw her as a replacement, a vessel to carry the honor of the He family. The true heir, He Rufei, was weak and sickly, hidden away from the world. And so the burden fell on her. Her father dressed her in her brother's robes. He gave her his name, his future, his very life. From that day on, she was no longer He Yan. She was He Rufei, the He family's son and heir. But the lie was fragile. One slip of the tongue, one glimpse of her face, and the truth would shatter everything. To ensure her secret, her father bound her in a cold, expressionless mask. Every day, she wore it. From morning until night, the mask pressed against her skin, suffocating, heavy, unyielding. It erased her smile, concealed her softness, and turned her into the son her father demanded. The girl inside it vanished, hidden behind steel and silence. While other girls her age learned music, poetry, and embroidery, He Yan was thrown into a soldier's world. Her mornings began before dawn, calloused hands gripping a wooden sword heavier than her arms could bear. When she faltered, the whip cracked. When she fell, her father's cold voice commanded, "Stand again!" She learned to ride horses until her legs bled raw. She drilled with weapons until her fingers split. At night, she collapsed on her bedding, her small body bruised and aching, but no tears dared escape. Tears were weakness, and weakness was death. Through hardship and pain, she hardened. Her blade grew steady, her strikes precise. She mastered the art of war, how to command soldiers, how to read battlefields, how to survive. On the battlefield, she bled beside men, watching comrades fall nameless into the mud. But she endured. With fire and blood, she carved a place for herself. Not as He Yan, but as General Feihong, the invincible heir of the He family. Yet even in triumph, the mask remained. Every victory was a hollow echo. Every cheer for He Rufei cut her deeper. For the man they praised, the general they honored, did not exist. And so, the question grew heavier with every passing year, beating louder inside her chest. Who am I beneath this mask? Years of uneasy peace had passed, but war always lingered on the horizon. In the 20th year of Wei's Xingyun era, the dreaded Wutuo people swept across the borders once more. Savage and unyielding, their armies struck fear into the common folk. Villages burned, families fled, and the drums of war thundered across the land. The emperor placed his faith in one man, General Xiao Zhongwu. A hero of the past, Xiao Zhongwu had once crushed the Wutuo with unrivaled brilliance. The people believed in him. Soldiers followed him with unwavering trust. His very name was a banner of hope. Leading the Xiao army, he marched to the battlefield at Mingshui. The clash was brutal. Arrows darkened the sky. Swords gleamed in rivers of blood. Thousands cried out, their voices swallowed by the chaos of war. Yet Xiao Zhongwu stood tall in the storm. His command steady, his heart resolute. But fate turned against him. Unbeknownst to him, the Wutuo had laid a deadly trap. The battlefield was no mere battleground. It was a killing ground, designed to swallow his men whole. One by one, his soldiers fell. 10,000, 20,000, until 30,000 lives were lost. Mingshui became a graveyard of Wei's bravest. Still, Xiao Zhongwu refused to yield. His hope rested on the Fuyue army, led by General He Rufei. He believed with all his heart that reinforcements would arrive. His men held the lines, shouting, "General Feihong will come," but the battlefield was merciless. The Fuyue army came too late. By the time He Yan, still bound in disguise, arrived, all she found was devastation. Corpses littered the ground. The once mighty Xiao army was no more, and Xiao Zhongwu, the Lion of Wei, lay dead among his fallen men, his blood staining the earth he had sworn to protect. Standing amidst the ruin, Xiao Zhe, his only son, trembled with grief and fury. His eyes blazed like a man consumed by fire. When he saw He Yan arrive at last, wearing the name He Rufei, rage tore through him. He stormed forward and seized the Qinglang sword from her hand, a blade his father had once entrusted to He Rufei as a symbol of the future. With a voice sharp as steel, Xiao Zhe declared, "Ye be not worthy of this sword. Ye be not worthy of me father's trust." The battlefield fell silent, the weight of betrayal and loss heavy in the air. For Xiao Zhe, the wound of Mingshui would never heal. And for He Yan, the guilt of arriving too late would carve into her soul like a scar that could never fade. The war at Mingshui had ended in ashes. The Zhao army lay destroyed, and the grief of Zhao Jue hung heavy in the air. With the weight of failure pressing on her chest, He Yan returned to the capital. She carried the burden of her late arrival, the scorn in Zhao Jue's eyes, and the bitter memory of the Qinglang sword ripped from her hands. But the battle awaiting her at home would wound her far deeper than any blade. Summoned to her father's study, she entered with the mask still fixed to her face. That mask, the prison she had worn since childhood, had long become part of her skin. Yet this time, her father's gaze pierced her differently. With chilling calm, Yi Sui, the patriarch of the He family, told her the words she had never imagined hearing. "It is time, He Yan. You need no longer live as a man." At first, she thought it a release, a long-awaited freedom. But his next words struck like thunder. Her father gestured to the shadows of the room, where a man stepped forward. His figure was pale, his presence frail yet dignified. His face, so familiar and yet completely strange. He Yan's breath caught in her throat. "This," her father declared, "is the true He Rufei, your elder brother." The world spun. Her father continued, voice steady and coolly logical. Since birth, her brother had been too weak to bear the family's burdens. Hidden away at Yuhua Temple, he had been nursed back to health, away from prying eyes. To protect the He family's honor, someone had to take his place, and that someone had been her. Years of blood, sweat, and tears, every scar she bore, every victory she earned were not hers to claim. They were his. Her brother would now resume his rightful name, his rightful place, and even the title of General Feihong. She was to cast aside her armor, shed the mask, and live quietly as a woman of the household, forgotten by history. He Yan's heart thundered in her chest. She had endured whips, war, and wounds, all to protect the family name. She had worn the mask until her soul suffocated. She had led men into battle, braved death 1,000 times, only to be told none of it mattered. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling but fierce. "I have fought not for myself, but for our family, for honor, for Wei. How can you erase all that I have done?" Her father's expression did not waver. To him, her life had always been a tool, a means to an end. What He Yan did not know was that the betrayal ran deeper still. The night before this confrontation, she had resolved to go to court herself, to stand before the emperor, to plead for Xiao Jue's innocence, and to prove that she was worthy of carrying on as General Feihong. But her brother, the real He Rufei, had anticipated her defiance. With a quiet hand and a hidden cup of wine, he had drugged her, ensuring her silence, ensuring she could not fight for the truth. And in that moment, Heian realized the cruelest truth. She had never been her father's daughter nor her family's pride. She had only ever been their substitute. At the imperial palace, the air was thick with tension. Emperor Chengping sat in judgment, his voice cold as steel as he delivered the decree. Xiao Zhongwu is responsible for the loss of 30,000 soldiers. Strip him of his titles, bury him as a commoner. The Xiao family shall no longer hold military command. The words struck like thunder. Before the golden throne, Xiao Ju, General Feihong, son of the condemned, knelt low, his fists clenched upon the marble floor. His voice rang clear, laced with both grief and defiance. Your Majesty, my father is no traitor. Our ambushes were discovered one after another. This was no mere failure. It was sabotage. There must be a spy within our ranks. I beg ye, reopen the case. The court buzzed with whispers, and then, summoned by Imperial command, General Feihong appeared. Heian's heart should have been there to answer the call. But the figure that stepped forward was not her. It was He Rufei, her brother, the imposter cloaked in the title she had bled to earn. With a bow, his words fell like poison. Your Majesty, the defeat lies squarely on Xiao Zhongwu. In pursuit of glory, he refused to wait for reinforcements. His arrogance led to the slaughter. The Xiao family has none to blame but themselves. The Emperor's eyes hardened. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Xiao Ju's chest burned with fury. He surged to his feet, his voice sharp as a blade. Lies, twisting truth to condemn the innocent. How dare you slander my father? He Rufei sneered, his lips curling into mockery. And what are you, Xiao Ju? Still loyal to a sinner? That taunt broke him. In a flash, steel sang. Xiao Ju drew his sword, the blade's arc cutting through silence and terror. With a single strike, he shattered the mask from He Rufei's face, exposing the truth before all. Gasps erupted in the chamber, but defiance before the throne could not go unpunished. For violating court law, Xiao Ju was seized and beaten, 20 strokes across his back until blood stained the marble floor. He was forced to kneel outside the palace gates through the long, merciless night. And yet, at dawn, he did not falter. Broken but unbent, Xiao Ju admitted his fault for his outburst. Then, lifting his head with iron resolve, he made his plea. Your Majesty, grant me command. Send me to Q City. I will reclaim the land we lost. If not for my family's honor, then for Wei. The Emperor regarded him coldly. Very well, but the court will send you no soldiers. If ye wish to prove yourself, you will do so alone. Xiao Ju bowed, accepting the impossible task. Even stripped of allies, beaten and bloodied, he vowed to carve justice from ruin, until the world knew the truth of Xiao Zhongwu's name. Meanwhile, a now blinded He Yan was sent to Yuhua Temple. But her exile was not meant as sanctuary, it was her death sentence. He Rufei, fearing the shadow of her existence, dispatched his most trusted guard, Ding Yi, to ensure she would never return. Ding Yi's first attempt was subtle. He shifted the rose bushes that lined the temple paths, redirecting her steps toward the pond. To any blind woman, it would have ended in a quiet drowning, an accident no one would question. Yet He Yan was no ordinary woman. Though robbed of sight, her years on the battlefield had sharpened every other sense. The faint change in the wind, the wrong placement of gravel beneath her boots, the soft lap of water too near. Each warning spoke to her like a soldier's instinct. She slowed, her cane tapping, and turned away from the trap. Still, her danger was far from over. Ding Yi, relentless, struck again when He Yan attempted to flee. He shadowed her to a hidden mountain path, waiting until the moon cloaked the world in darkness. There, steel flashed. But even blinded, He-Yan fought with the ferocity of a seasoned general. She heard the hiss of his blade cutting air, smelt the iron tang of sharpened steel. Every rustle of cloth, every crunch of his boots on stone became her map. Her body moved before thought, ducking, twisting, parrying with the dagger she always carried. She landed 2 strikes, shallow but precise, grazing Ding Yi's arm and thigh. He snarled in frustration. This was no helpless woman, but the same warrior who had once led thousands into battle. Yet blindness could not be denied forever. Ding Yi fainted, then swept low, the sound masked by a dust of night wind. Too late, He-Yan shifted. His sword pierced her chest. Breath ripped from her lungs as she staggered back, the world spinning. Her heel caught the cliff's edge, and with one last defiant glare, sightless yet burning, He-Yan tumbled into the waters below. Against all odds, she lived. The river carried her broken body far from the mountain, where fate placed her into the hands of her master, Liu Wutuo. With unmatched skill, he drew the poison from her veins and healed the damage to her eyes. When she finally opened them again, vision returned like dawn breaking after endless night. And in that moment, He-Yan cast away the mask forever. She was no longer anyone's shadow, nor her family's substitute. She was simply herself, He-Yan. With her sight restored, He-Yan stood before the mirror of the river, the mask in her hand. That cold, lifeless piece of iron had been her prison for years, shielding her true self, binding her to an identity that was never hers. Slowly, deliberately, she let it fall into the rushing waters below. For the first time, she breathed as herself, no longer the substitute of her brother, no longer General Feihong. She was simply He-Yan. Her heart was lighter, yet the fire within burned brighter than ever. Memories of betrayal clawed at her. The father who had silenced her dreams, the brother who stole her name and glory, the poisoned words that shattered her reputation, and the blade that nearly ended her life. She would never forget, but neither would she yield. Instead, she swore an oath to herself, to reclaim everything through her own strength, not as a shadow, but as a soldier in her own right, to honor the teachings of her fallen mentor, the late General Feihong, and to carve her destiny into the annals of history. Far away, news spread that Xiaoju, General Feihong, was rallying forces for a desperate campaign. Many feared joining, for the Emperor had offered him no soldiers, no support. But to He-Yan, it was the chance she had long awaited. Donning male attire once more, she bound her hair, strapped on her sword, and mounted her horse. No longer burdened by disguise, but armored in determination, she rode toward the recruitment site. Each hoofbeat echoed her resolve. This time, she would not be anyone's replacement. This time, the world would know her name. She was He-Yan, and her journey had just begun.